episode of the JR Takes Sportscast. As always, Ryan Rogers and Jonah Hoffman coming at you live from Beeham, Washington.
Yes, sir.
And it's been a couple weeks. Personally, it's been a big few weeks for me. Jonah, what have you been up to these last few weeks here while we've been away? Just working, school?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, just working, and that's pretty much it. That's my life lately. Working and watching football and doing this podcast that 12 people listen to.
Yeah, so last we checked in, we were about to play the 49ers on Wild Card Weekend. Obviously, that didn't go the way I predicted or hoped it would. But quick recap of that game. Man, that first half of the Seahawks 49ers game went as beautifully as I could have hoped. I mean, I didn't think we really had much of a shot going into the game other than just pure blind faith in Pete Carroll. But once they had that unnecessary roughness penalty on Geno when he went to slide and we got moved into field goal range, and then Myers banged, I think, a 53-yarder, a 51-yarder to take a 1-point lead at half, I was like, we might be onto something. Like, we could really pull this off.
I certainly had some hope when we were leading at halftime. I didn't expect that to happen,
Yeah.
but once we proved that we could compete with them for an entire 30 minutes of the game, that was encouraging. The only problem is you got to play a whole 60 minutes. And in a game like that, you can't give up any turnovers.
Or stupid penalties. And I think ultimately...
what was up with the ineligible
they were all
downfield
on Damian
3 times?
Lewis, too. Who I think was one of our better linemen this year. But, like, what the fuck was going on, Damian? I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought the first one was pretty dumb, like pretty ticky-tacky. But, I mean, the other two were like... I mean, yeah, he's like 8 yards downfield on a passing play. Like... It's not a call you see often, but oddly enough, it got called on us in total 4 times this year. All of them were when we were playing in Santa Clara. Because did you remember the big play to DK on a flea flicker week 2?
Yes.
Same thing. Ineligible downfield. I think that one was on 8.
How do you remember that? That's crazy.
I don't know. But yeah, obviously the wheels fell off real quick after Geno fumbled in the...
That was the pivotal moment of the game. And Geno, you had a great season, but you can't have that happen, man.
Yeah.
That lost us the game.
Yeah.
It did. And if we would have scored a touchdown right there, even a field goal, we would have been down by 3.
Yeah.
But if we would have scored a touchdown, we would have been winning the game at that moment in time. And what was that, late third quarter?
Yeah, no, that was...
Yeah.
It was... We were 75% of the way through the game, if not more at that point. I think it was even more. I think that might have been early fourth or very late third. Like... That game was very, very tight for most of the way through it. To give some context of how my experience was watching that game, it was a crazy day for me. I was in a bar in Kauai in the Waimea region, and I was surrounded by 49er fans, completely surrounded by 49er fans. And during the first half, I was making some glances around the room because I was celebrating, when the big plays were happening. So people wanted to beat me up in that bar for sure.
What are they even doing in Hawaii?
Kauai is an interesting island. It's like most of the people that live there are retirees. I feel like there's not a lot of locals. So I think a lot of people from the Bay Area have retired on that island.
A lot of rich people in the Bay Area sold their rich house and moved to the rich island of Kauai.
Yes, that's precisely.
Well, I hope their team loses against Philly on Sunday, and they're really sad about it.
I hope they do too. But honestly, once Geno threw the interception and we were already down by 2 scores, I was
that was just whatever to me. When that happened, I was like, okay, the game's over.
I had to leave because they were all celebrating and I was getting way too upset. And I had to get over it really quick though, because like an hour after the game was over, I was getting down on a knee and proposing to my now fiance. So I really had to move on quick from that football game. But she said yes. It was a wonderful moment and experience and everything. Thank you. But it's funny because I'm always going to associate that moment now with that 49ers game, which is just funny.
Yeah.
But anyways, just quick recap of the whole season for the Seahawks before we just start talking about NFL playoffs. I thought it was a fantastic year. We had some predictions that
went by really quick too, I will say. Didn't it seem like yesterday when we went to training camp?
Yeah, it seems like a couple weeks ago I went to the Broncos game and was all hyped on Geno and everything. But unforgettable season. This is going to be one we talk about for a long time. There's not really a good past season to compare this one to because it was just very different. Everything about it was different. But I mean, 9-8 making the playoffs. Yeah, we didn't win, but I mean, we were playing against a team that right now I think is going to get to the Super Bowl. And I think the Bengals are the only team that could actually beat this 49ers team right now because I think their defense is good enough to get the job done. And Burrow is clutch enough with those weapons. We're getting a little ahead of the game there, but I don't think there's any shame on Seattle for kind of getting.
I fully expected us to lose that game, and I think being ahead at halftime was progress enough. And, getting our young guys all that experience and being able to play together, which brings me to a point that's kind of off topic, but think about how good our defense is going to be if we take, let's say hypothetically, we use our first 4 picks on defense and we're getting Jamal Adams back.
Yeah.
We might have a defense in the ballpark of the Niners next year if we draft the right defensive lineman.
The big thing is getting that D line shored up
and another linebacker to replace Cody.
Well, and the thing is, I think if we have a better front line in front of the linebackers, they'll look better. Like Jordan Brooks will look better. Barton, if we re-sign him, will look better.
Well, yeah, because the defensive line, they always are the first to be impacted, and then because they're in front of the linebackers, it's only natural for them. We need good defensive linemen to make our linebackers play. I mean, you heard KJ right. I mean, a lot of his gameplay. Who was that defensive tackle we had that he ended up?
McDonald?
No, it was Shelton Harris or no? Shelton Harris was that. We did this an episode or two ago.
Yeah,
it was Shelton something. Shelton Richardson.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and I remember hearing KJ talk about how he would be like lazy a lot of the time in practice and make his job a lot harder. So that just good. I mean, that in and of itself is like if you have good defensive front, that's going to help the linebackers out a lot.
I really feel like Richardson was one of the main. He doesn't get talked about a lot in the Seattle history and lore, but that was one of the more monumental mistakes we made we made a few trades in the let's try to capitalize on this championship core phase of Seattle. I feel like 2016 through 2019-ish, 2020.
And I never really felt like we had a championship team. Did you?
After 2015, I think that team was good enough to do it. That Wilson was having his first elite season. The defense was still number 1 in points allowed, I'm pretty sure.
Are you talking about the Carolina season? Yeah.
I thought we just walked into that stadium and just shat our pants immediately. But if you remember, we almost came back.
Yeah.
And I still feel like the 2015 Carolina Panthers are one of the flukiest teams I've ever watched. Newton had a great year, but look at the rest of his career beyond that. Just nothing about it made sense. He was throwing to Devin Funchess. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. We made a lot of trades during that period of time that just did not work out. And I think he was one of the worst examples, along with Jadeveon Clowney, where we gave up significant assets for a defensive lineman, and then they spent 1 year with our team, and we didn't do anything with them on that 1 year.
Yeah, the Jadeveon Clowney, I remember when it happened, we were like, oh my God, we stole him from the Texans. But it ended up not really even being worth it because we had him for that 1 year and the Niners were the best team in the NFC West that year. And
they made the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't remember what we got for Richardson.
We gave up.
We gave up, yeah.
It was significant draft capital. I don't remember.
Was it a first round or a second?
I don't know if it was a first, but it was top 3 round, I want to say. Not something you would want to give up for a 1 year rental of a guy that didn't do much.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's put that in the past and let's move forward and see what we got with our team. And do we want to move ahead to the NFL playoffs? We maybe recap on our brackets or?
Yeah, I think sometime maybe after the Super Bowl, let's just do a full recap of the Seahawks season. But I think right now there's too much to talk about aside from that. we just had divisional round weekend, and your picks are looking pretty good overall, I want to say.
I just got to say, I should have went with my gut. I didn't.
Cincy?
I didn't think the Bills. Even when I chose the Bills, I was more doing that because I was like wanting them to win for DeMar Hamlin. But I should have known that was not going. That Cinderella story was just not going to happen.
I chose them for non-logical reasons, which you shouldn't do.
Yeah, and so I should have went with my gut because if it wasn't the Bengals, then my pick was Cincy because they were my pick to go last year. Not to win it, but they were my pick to go.
You mean if it wasn't the Bills, your pick was Cincy?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now that 2 weeks of the playoffs have passed, and we know about Burrow and company, I think that they're gonna waltz into Kansas City and everyone is saying all this stuff about Burrow's 3-0 is something's got to give for the Chiefs. And it's I don't believe in all of those tropes. Those are just by chance. You look at them individually. You don't look at them as a whole.
I think people assign way too much value to things that have happened in the past. It does not dictate what's going to happen right now.
For example, Tom Brady has never lost to the Dallas Cowboys. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's coincidence. That has nothing to do with the current rosters and how they're going to match up.
Exactly. And then that's the thing that I hate it when people have sports takes that are based purely off of stupid shit like that. That's okay, well, what are the reasons that happened? What teams were those? Are those the teams that are playing now? No.
And exactly. If anything, that gives the Bengals a bigger advantage because the Chiefs have lost players that were on that team that still lost to the Bengals.
Yeah, and Mahomes has a high ankle sprain. That's a significant injury. I think if Mahomes was healthy, I would be a little more hard pressed to take the Chiefs because they're going to be at home, and they've kind of been the AFC team for the last chunk of years here. But I think a hobbled Mahomes with the ferocious Cincy defense and an underrated factor going into this game is the Cincinnati offense, I think, is going to be able to score kind of at will on that Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense is not as good as the Bills is. And the Bengals had their way with Buffalo when they were on offense last week.
The Bengals can do anything they want offensively. I think Romo was saying it during the game that Burrow was lining up his receivers essentially kind of like Peyton used to do. He would go in the shotgun, running back with him, and then 2 wide receiver sets on each side, and just get the quick passes over the middle. And I was like, you know what? That does remind me a lot of how Peyton used to play. He would do hurry up offense, slants over the middle, handoff, slants over the middle, and that's exactly what they were doing. And it was just death by 1,000 cuts because Joe Mixon had 20 rush attempts for 105 yards and a touchdown. That's exactly what you want.
They were tough running yards. He had a lot of runs where I was like, oh, he's going to get 2 yards here, and then he just makes a guy miss, trucks a guy.
I think people forget, Joe Mixon, his first couple years, didn't get a lot of credit for how much of a dog he is because he got hurt. He got an ACL injury, and I think people kind of just wrote him off, and then they got Burrow, and now he's
kind of the forgotten man. But he is really an important part of that machine that they got going there.
Yeah.
But I do think T. Higgins is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league because I have him on my dynasty league. I know how fucking good he is.
Yeah.
And the combination of him and Jamar Chase plus Tyler Boyd plus they got a decent set of tight ends that offense can do it all.
Reminds me a lot of the Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne.
That's what I was going to say too. Actually, they're kind of a pretty good comparison. But Burrow also, just to talk about him for a little bit, he kind of has an X factor to his play that people smarter in quarterback terms than me can probably put it more eloquently, but I just feel like he has that it factor, and he's so in control of the game and the situation and accurate and poised. And he doesn't have the physical talents that Mahomes has, but I feel like that intangible it is for real with him. He's a cool, calm, collected guy in tense situations. And
confidence goes a long way as a quarterback in the NFL, I think. Especially I don't know if you agree with this take, but I've noticed lately Josh Allen is like a completely different player as far as his play as compared to last year, and just the confidence level of him looks to be lesser than it was in the past.
You got to wonder if that game against the Chiefs last year kind of mentally exasperated him a bit, because he played as well as
he gave everything he had in that game.
I've seen very few games quarterbacked more impressively than that game by Josh Allen. I mean, you think of the 2-point conversion he had where it was just a crazy run to the left, and the things Josh Allen could do with his arm just disgust me. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't know, like the Bills, like they keep getting so close every year and then they're faltering. But man, like they sure looked lost against the Bengals last weekend, and at home. Well, was it a neutral site? I forget.
No, it was at home.
It was yeah. Okay, that's
why is the AFC Championship at a neutral site?
I think it was only going to be if it was Bills Chiefs.
Why?
Because the Bills didn't get to have a full season because of the DeMar Hamlin situation.
Okay.
And if they had won against Cincy, I think they would have been the number 1 seed because they beat the Chiefs earlier.
Gotcha.
But the Chiefs got it by default because of that situation.
I guess I didn't really look into any sort of like repercussions for not playing that game. Like I haven't done any sort of research.
It all happened in a whirl. As you said earlier, it's crazy to me that we're in Conference Championship Sunday already coming up here. I mean, this season just blew by.
It goes by faster and faster every year. Yeah. It really does. Like I can remember the week before week 1, like clear as crystal, it seems like every season, because I'm like so excited. Yeah. And then the season happens. I'm like, damn it. That was you so think about
fast. It's like just a little bit over 4 months of the year we get to watch the sport at the professional level. Then it's over. And then you spend the rest of the year waiting for the next season, you know?
Yeah.
But I think this season has been one of my favorites in a long time. Just being over, I feel like from Seattle's perspective, like not having our legends on the team, I guess besides Bruce Irvin, but I mean, that's, not a guy that people are going to put on the Mount Rushmore of Seattle sports more than likely, although I do love me some Bruce Irvin. Anywho, I feel like the just shadow of that lost Super Bowl was looming a lot less on us this season, and it was just a fresh start, and it was super fun. And just seeing the ascent of a team like the Bengals and the Jaguars making the playoffs, and the Broncos being so terrible and hilarious to watch, like it's an unforgettable season all around.
Oh yeah.
So it sounds like we're both taking the Bengals over the Chiefs for the reasons outlined below. I actually think the NFC title game is a lot harder to pick because
I think the Niners are going to win, but
I think they are too. But I mean, the Eagles are at home. Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback right now. AJ Brown, great receiver. Devontae Smith, I think he's an ascending star in this league. It's a hard one to choose, but honestly, the main thing for me is Shanahan has proved that his system is semi-quarterback proof. I mean, I think Brock Purdy is actually legit. I think he's a good quarterback, but I mean, look at the numbers a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo has put up in his system. I mean, he had Matt Ryan played at MVP level in 2016. Like wherever the guy goes, his quarterbacks do well because his system is so well designed.
Well, I think that the Niners are going to win, but picking them means that I'm picking Brock Purdy to go into Philly and beat them.
It's a little hard to justify, isn't it?
He's going to remain perfect for the 8th week in a row. His luck's going to run out at some point. That's what and maybe not. Maybe he wins and maybe he goes to the Super Bowl and maybe they beat the Bengals or the Chiefs, whoever. That's a tall task for anyone. And I just don't like, I think the Niners are going to win and I'm picking them, but like if they lost, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. I think the game is going to be really close. I think it's honestly going to be up to the Eagles defense because I think
they're going to have to stop the run, which they were not great at this year, which surprises me because they have a great
their line
front.
Is I know
Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis are the two guys I'm thinking of.
Well, and they also signed the Ndamukong Suh at some point in the season.
yeah,
I didn't even realize that till I was watching the
realize he
game and
was
I
in the
saw
league
his
still.
face pop up. I'm like, you're still playing? You're like 76. But yeah, no, I mean that's kind of the X factor in that game to me is whether they can stop the run game with not only Christian McCaffrey but with Deebo Samuel. You know, he's as big a part of their run game as anyone else, and they also have Elijah Mitchell. Like, there's a lot. That frankly, the reason why I'm picking the Niners is because I think they have the better defense. Clearly, although it's closer than some people may think. That Niners defense is nasty.
It is good, but the Eagles, they're no scrubs either.
No, I mean, there's a reason why they're playing in the NFC Championship at home. There's a reason why Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate and A.J. Brown is a Offensive Player of the Year candidate, I'm pretty sure.
It's going to be really fun to watch the Eagles on offense and the Niners on defense because the Eagles have a really good offensive line.
Well, and Jalen Hurts has that mobility that I don't know how often the Niners have had to play a team like that this year. I mean, you think of like, no, I can't really think of a mobile. I mean, they played against Justin Fields and lost, but
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Looking back on that the Bears, the worst team in the league, beat the Niners.
Yeah, and the Broncos. The Bears and Broncos both beat the Niners in a game where, but the difference in both those games is they didn't have McCaffrey and Brock Purdy wasn't starting. And
they were both on the road.
True. And don't get me wrong, I don't even necessarily think Brock Purdy is better than Jimmy G, but I think he has a better arm than him, and I think the offense has been kind of clicking more with him for whatever reason.
I think they have the same arm.
You think so?
Yeah. I don't think one has better than the other. I think they're both just meh.
I mean, Brock Purdy doesn't have a special arm by any means. It's not bad, but I was watching this video from the Niners training camp of like a comparison of their arm strength, and it looked like Purdy had a little bit more zip on it, but I mean, honestly, it wasn't like... It's not like the difference between Josh Allen and, you know, like Gardner Minshew. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That supporting cast around Brock Purdy is why he's playing the way he is. You know, you put him on a team like the Texans this year, he probably would have been benched because...
For Davis.
Yeah. And then they would switch back and forth because that team is hopeless right now. They're the most rebuilding team in the league, which is what I expected coming in. Them and the Bears. I remember this offseason we were looking at it. I'm like, how is anyone saying that the Seahawks look worse than these two franchises? Like,
well, to be fair, remember we got blown out at home by the Bears in the preseason.
That's
and
when
we
I
were
started.
All like, are we gonna just be terrible?
But I had to keep in mind, like, Geno was throwing passes to guys who all got cut. So there you go. But yeah, the 49ers just, I mean, they haven't lost in what, like 13 or 12 weeks or something like that, 10 weeks. I think the Eagles have a little more holes in their armor, but I'm picking the Niners, but as you said, I could also very easily see the Eagles pulling this off. I think win or lose, the score between the two teams is going to be, I think it's going to be a high scoring game, actually. I think like 28-24 or 34-31 kind of game. I don't see it being a defensive slog like the Dallas game was. Mm-hmm. So yeah, what do you think for that one?
I'm gonna say the Niners. Yeah, I'm gonna say the Niners win 27-24.
That seems reasonable. It's going to be a fun weekend of football to watch. I'm really glad I don't really have any plans this weekend.
I have Saturday off, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, my show Saturday got canceled, so yeah.
I think Jaron might be coming up.
Oh, really?
Too. So yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, so I guess that is our Championship Sunday predictions. Do we want to talk Super Bowl or do we want to wait till next week?
Let's wait. Let's wait to do we'll do a Super Bowl special.
I like
which
it.
will just be us talking about the Super Bowl.
Yes.
There'll be nothing special about it.
And then we got a whole offseason to digest and unpack this last Seahawks season. There's a ton I want to talk about. But yeah, I think that's probably good for this one, unless you got anything else you want to bring up.
No, other than the fact that if the Kraken keep playing well, this might be the first time in Seattle history where we have 3 major sports teams making the playoffs.
That's true. Well, I mean, they're like the number 1 team in the West right now, aren't they?
They're doing really good. I haven't watched a game in I don't know how long, but
Yeah.
but I've been following them.
I mean, you're repping their sweatshirt right now.
Yep. Got a
Also, great fucking logo design by. I mean, Seattle has very, very good uniform design.
great logo design. However, the mascot. Have you seen that thing?
No, I haven't.
It's the worst thing you could imagine.
That bad?
It's so bad. I'll show it to you. Actually, no, I'm going to show it to you on air.
Okay.
So you can judge just raw emotion. Because you would think, oh, make the mascot look like Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Or even just a squid.
Or something cool, right? Yeah, well, guess what? Nope, we get this.
I mean, my mental prediction is just literally a guy in a squid costume. So here's the unscripted reaction. What the fuck is that? It looks like some fucking furry. Like, What the hell is that? Why did they go with that? He looks like, the, like, 7-Eleven or whatever gas station,
the
like
AMPM thing.
the AMPM, that disgusting fucking abomination of a mascot. It looks just like why? They need to redo that.
I was reading comments on like when they did the reveal, and everyone was just like, "You still have time to delete this." And someone was like, if you just redo this, we will never bring it up again.
Well, they did that with the Sonic movie, I'm pretty sure, when people reacted to it. So maybe they should have listened. I don't mean they as in the Seattle Kraken, but it can be done.
It's just funny because like the other mascots that we've had in the past. Well, I don't really know what the Storm and the Sounders are. I know the Sounders is like an orca or something, but the Mariners is a moose. That's fucking sick.
Yeah.
And then the Sonics were a Sasquatch. That was so cool.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
somehow.
he looked like Chewbacca. It was awesome.
That is awesome. I keep hearing
we have this thing is gross. It looks like a Furby.
It doesn't look intimidating either. It looks like it wants to go to a weird fucking sex party.
I honestly get angry when I look at it. I want to like fight it.
Well, maybe that's why they're doing so good, is the other team is just so distracted by how terrible our mascot is that
honestly it would work if I was an opponent. I would be so distracted by wanting to like beat that thing up that I would play terrible.
Well,
hockey.
imagine being like the goalkeeper and then like getting scored on and seeing that
and
thing
then seeing
celebrate
that thing like coming down from the
Jumbotron.
rafters, like on like fucking cables, like
maybe. Well, now that we've talked through it, maybe it's a good
I'm
idea.
starting to like it.
No, you're not.
All right. Well, that was pretty much my last minute, exit.
Yeah. That's probably
comment.
a good way to send this thing off.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thanks for listening in. This was a fun one.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Catch you on the next one.